Ladies and gentlemen, a warm welcome to another Urban Future Talk. It's a great pleasure. Today it's not only one person. We have a panel with 4 panelists, all distinguished guests, high-ranked officials or former officials. Sir Tom Clarke, on my left side. Tom, it's a great pleasure to have you here. Tom, you were active in the 1990s campaign to keep water public in Scotland. What was your role and why was this fight so important?
I was then the Shadow Secretary of State for Scotland, because although Labour was the biggest party in Scotland at that time, we had a Conservative government, and the minority of Scots MPs were Tories. Excuse me. But they wanted to privatise water in Scotland. And my input was to lead the Labour Party and many others, it has to be said. All the parties in Scotland, apart from the Tories, were against privatisation. So I must have spoken at numerous meetings, outdoor and indoor. But the most important thing that took place, and I'll try and be brief on this one, is that the local government organisations then were very important. The Tories dismantled them subsequently. But Strathclyde Regional Council, which represented in population the half of Scotland, undertook, I suppose, a referendum. And the response was remarkable. 70% of the people responded. And of that, I think it was 96 or 97% were against privatisation. And we now see that the terrible things that are happening in the rest of the UK, especially in England, that they were absolutely right. So it was a great campaign. The people's judgment, when we see what's going on elsewhere in the UK, turned out to be absolutely right. And so I was very pleased to be involved.
So do you think your home country is an ideal in this topic?
Well, there's every reason, because I've been admiring the beautiful water here in Austria. And I think we are gifted in Scotland because of the nature of the territory, where we have, I think, wonderful water as well. And the idea that from the Highlands to the islands to the borders, that was going to be privatised, that would certainly reduce the quality of water and provision. And issues which are arising in England, where sewage, for example, has been disposed into rivers and so on, that would be, I'm not saying it doesn't happen in Scotland, but certainly not to the extent that's going on elsewhere, and that would be appalling.
I see. Astrid, in Vienna, the Water Charter says water must not be for profit. I think this is very important. How does this affect everyday life in the city?
I think the most
important
effect is that the water in Vienna is affordable. But it's not only affordable, it has also high water quality. And we have a very modern water pipe network. And we don't have a lot of losses. We have about 7% losses, which is a very small amount in international levels, actually. And what would it mean to have the privatization? It would have meant that the water price is much higher. It would have meant that there would be more water losses. And of course, that it's not sure if the water quality is the same, because investments are made if the owner of the water pipe network and the water supply has a high identification with the task to have this big responsibility for the water quality and for the water supply.
I see. In Paris, the loss of water was enormous and really unbelievable. Thank you, Astrid. Neil, Glasgow still uses the Loch Katrine water system from the 18th, so 1800. How did this shape the city's growth? What can we learn today?
Well, the Loch Katrine supply was in response to significant problems: cholera, dysentery, contagious disease, a lot of it caused by waterborne parasites, and the fact that the city was unsanitary in the mid-19th century. And the then Lord Provost Stewart decided that something had to be done, and he had very good medical advisors. And they invested very substantially in the Loch Katrine supply. Similar things were happening in other UK cities. Birmingham, for example, gets its water supply from Wales. So connecting to large bodies of water or creating the sufficient damming lochs and creating a sufficiency of supply. The Loch Katrine water is superb. I do like Glasgow's drinking water. I have to say, I might like Glasgow's drinking water. Vienna's drinking water leaves Glasgow's drinking water standing. Your water is better than ours. So we're going to have a look when we get back home and see what we can do and copy Vienna a little bit, because I don't know what the difference is. It's probably a sort of chemical thing and to do with minerals and that sort of thing. But our water supply is really excellent. And when you compare it, I mean, Tom mentioned the privatization has caused huge problems. Economic problems, but more importantly, ecological, disastrous problems. And the fact that, people in London, you take a glass of water, it's already been through 7 people before you get it. This stuff is fresh. This stuff is new. The idea, I mean, who would want to drink a glass of water that's, been through 7 intestines before it gets to yours? Not me.
It's very interesting. Didn't know. Liz, you use art and storytelling to talk about water. How can culture help people value water as a common good?
Great. Well, first of all, I don't know if I agree that Vienna's water is better than Scotland's water. I find them both absolutely delicious in different ways. I think they're very distinct and they each have their own distinct flavour. So I don't want to compare and contrast.
You're such a diplomat.
However, having said that, yes, I am a cultural planner and I believe in cultural processes, artists at the heart of all policy agendas, in terms of getting messages across, in terms of enrolling people in arguments about water privatization. And those are difficult arguments. But if we celebrate our water, if we celebrate creatively, and I've been talking, and Neil has been talking with us about the idea of a project that brings together Vienna and Scotland's water stories, and we tell those stories and we celebrate the water together. I think that would be a fantastic way of getting these messages across and of telling the whole world about the importance of water being in public ownership, so that it's not about profit. That's the problem we have in the whole of our workability or non-workability now. We've got pollution and we've got sewage, we've got the ecosystem being interfered with and damaged and destroyed because of greed and privatization and capitalism. And it's not just about a lovely glass, although it is partly about a glass of water, but it's not just about that. It's a much, much bigger issue. And I think if we can involve artists and culture and storytelling, we'll get those messages across really clearly and succinctly.
We should emphasise that due to Sir Tom, we don't have those problems in Scotland. And you're quite right about the water opportunity.
Cheers.
Cheers. But it's necessary to combine this topic with culture.
Yes.
It's not necessary, but I think it's a very powerful way of getting messages across, telling stories and enrolling people and engaging people and having a groundswell of realisation of the importance of our water and the importance of it being in public ownership.
True. Culture can be a bridge.
Yes.
Astrid, Wiener invests a lot to protect its mountain sources. What measures are taken to secure water against climate change, a huge topic, climate change?
That's one of our biggest challenges, the climate change. The second challenge is the growth of the population in the city. And so in the last 3-4 years, the Vienna water supply was talking a lot about the strategy for the future. We developed actually a strategy which was presented to the population of the city. And we have 3 pillars which carry actually this strategy. The first is to enforce, to strengthen our resources. We have 70 springs in the Alps and 30 groundwater wells in Vienna and outside of Vienna in Lower Austria. The second pillar actually is to enlarge our water reservoirs. And the third pillar is to strengthen and widen the pipe net to the new areas where we are going to build new flats and apartments for the population. And as we presented this in 2022, together with the mayor of Vienna, every big project we present since then is connected to this strategy, and so the people know what we are doing. It's transparent, and so they are saying it's okay to do all these investments. They are very important, and I think this is for us. It was most important to show people, and not only 4 years ago or 3 years ago, but to show them every month with the new projects, how they are connected to this strategy.
Very interesting and important. Tom, looking at today, I'm so sorry. Tom, looking at today.
It's infectious. From Scotland.
Yes, too less water. Tom, looking at today, what lessons from Scotland's anti-privatization campaign are still important for other cities and countries?
I think the most important lesson is that people have the right to have a say. For myself, I'd like to broaden the discussion a little. I'm not sure if there are arrangements for regulation here, but we have in Scotland an organisation, some would say an NGO, called SEPA. I think it's the Scottish Environmental Protection Agency. By and large, in my experience, they do well. I come from a heavily industrial area, which is now in transition from coal and steel to more modern, perhaps scientifically based industries and all of that. But nevertheless, water is very important to them. But above all, it's important, and here's where I extend the discussion a little, because of personal experiences, which I don't like to talk about too much. But you will have noticed that my knee and my legs were not very good. And the reason for that is that I went into a very, very new hospital. And I don't want to diminish the standing of the Scottish Health Service, but it was taken over far too early. And I'd like to know, once an inquiry which is going on at the moment under a man called Lord Brodie, when it's complete, what the role of SEPA was in the water there, because we know that the water contained contamination. We knew that there were pigeons, and pigeons' droppings entered the water. And in my own case, in total, I was subjected to 4 hospital-acquired infections, one of them E. coli, and one of them MRSA. That shouldn't have happened. And so when the report comes out, I hope we'll have an answer as to why there was not a proper inspection of that water before consultants and the others got to work. Clearly that didn't happen.
I see. Neil, old water systems need modern upgrades, of course. How can we keep historic infrastructure safe and sustainable for the future?
It's a major challenge. The UK is heavily reliant still on extraordinary and brilliantly built infrastructure from the Victorian era.
Yeah.
But it's from the Victorian era, and that brings its own problems. So there is a need for ongoing investment. And I think that the simple answer is keep it in public ownership and keep investing at the right level and value water as a fundamentally important, crucial commodity that has to be kept in public ownership and it has to be kept to the highest of quality, and all credit to Vienna for doing that. And historically Scotland for doing that, because the Loch Katrine supply is Victorian and it's still good. Elsewhere there are structural problems. We cannot compare with 7%. That's an incredible statistic.
Yeah.
We are well into the teens, if not into the 20% in terms of leakage and loss. And again, that's about investment. And the problems that Liz was talking about are largely because instead of investing in the infrastructure, in piping, in the renewal of the water systems and the mechanisms for getting the supply safely into people's homes and workplaces, the investment was actually being squandered in paying out to shareholders.
Yeah.
And that's fundamentally wrong. And capitalism, don't start me, but it has its problems, and particularly when it's applied to something which is as crucial to the well-being of people day and daily.
So a lot of challenges. Liz, finally, can you share one project or story that touched you most in connecting people with water?
One story. Oh gosh. Well, I'm a member of the River Cities Network, and we are very focused on the rights of rivers. The idea, the UNESCO idea that rivers have rights, just the same as human beings have rights, and rivers have the right to be protected and to have their biodiversity maintained and to have access to them. And so that's one of the fundamental underpinnings of all the projects that we've been involved with over the years. One called Memory of Water, which takes the idea that water has memories in the molecules, so that we can actually delve into the history of a place through the industrial molecules in the rivers of Glasgow and that kind of thing. And so it was 5 cities creating projects together and sharing those experiences. And right now we're involved, and Vienna also is involved too, in a project called Turning the Tide, which is really looking at how can artists influence the dialogue around climate change and protecting our rivers. Always artists at the core. That's my
Can I add one tiny little story about water quality? Just an amusing little story. I may not look it, but I am or have been a runner for a long time. And one morning, not terribly long ago, I was running along the banks of the River Clyde in a slightly remote part, slightly out from the city centre. and the river was low, and there on a sandbank was a seal.
Mm-hmm.
Now, the quality of the river is such that there was a seal sitting on the sandbank. So I stopped and I got out my mobile phone and I held up my mobile phone. And as I held up my mobile phone, the seal looked at me and went with its flipper. So I have a photograph of the seal waving at it. Clearly, somebody has trained this seal to wave at people when they get their cameras out. And it was just the most sublime and delightful moment. And it's symbolic of the crucial importance of keeping our water clean.
Yeah. This topic, ladies and gentlemen, is very interesting also for Urban Forum Institute. We are member of the Danube strategy of the European Union. We are cooperating very close to river cities. So thank you for this interesting panel. Thank you for your ideas, your expertise. And I think we have to save water. Thank you so much. Thank you for watching Future Talk.
Thank you, Bernhard.
It's my pleasure. Thank you so much. My pleasure. Goodbye. See you.